All right, so we will speak today about how the development team at Microsoft works. Some real hardcore, down-to-earth stuff, real practice, commercial software development, and so on. Based on the Skype, of course. You see the Skype logo. Louder? Yes. Okay, louder. All right. Now, better now? Okay. So my name is Andrei Liahuski. I'm a senior dev lead at Microsoft. I've started at Microsoft 2 years ago, right with the Skype acquisition, and started developing the new Skype application for a new platform. Before that, I was developing all kinds of software, like from browsers to security, firewalls, antiviruses, photography, and so on and so on. I've seen many products going from whiteboard to the market. That's what I did in the past, and now I'm in Microsoft and lead a dev team. So basically, for all of you who are still awake, that's in one sentence how the team works. So after that, you can go home and tell that you know everything. Just kidding. So basically, deliver value to business and have fun doing epic stuff. That's our motto. That's in one sentence how we work, and that basically reflects most of our internal team spirit. But also, it's not only specific to Skype teams. I'm pretty sure, and I spoke to other leads, that the teams elsewhere in Microsoft share the same attitude. That's how we work, actually. It's like business and also have fun. Okay? So what we do in this team, and by the team today, about the internals, how it works, we mean team that develops Skype application for Windows 8.x. So that's the specific team, all right? I will be using this team as a basis for all the explanations. I will talk about ourselves, but sometimes it can expand somewhere else to neighborhood teams or something like that. Also, right, if you have any questions right to the business, feel free to stop me at any moment and ask your questions. Otherwise, we'll have a Q&A at the end, all right? So there is no need to catch half of the people and drag them to the other room. So 10, 15 minutes at the end for questions. But feel free to ask me. That's our business value, right? So that's the first slide. That's what we deliver to business. Skype application, new platform, immersive, amazing, lean and clean. That's what we do. So the team, a little bit more details. What we do with the team, we start with the right people and then we build on that diversity. Today we have 11 nationalities in the team. And there are people like, I don't know, captains of the sea vessels and pilot captains, and also people who built the sea vessels in the past, people who built the planes in the past, people who run Ironman triathlon, you know, and with that team, everything is piece of cake. So that's how you do, right? You start with the right people. Functions. Overall, if I count everybody who is doing specifically this modern Skype application, it's 14 developers, including the managers, 7 testers, 4 product managers, and 1 release manager. So overall, that's how much? Like 26, 27 people, right? About that. Organization still exists, so it's not the one team. Basically, it's a classical Microsoft Ray. There is 3 functions separately, dev, test, and PM. They have their own line of command, or their own chain of, I don't know, managers and bosses. So they're like separated organizationally, but in the real life, there's like little to almost no boundaries. We work together, sit next to each other on the desks next to each other, and we work like on daily basis together. And it's mostly like sometimes some bureaucracy that needs to be solved when the matter is taken outside of that our product team and goes up through this managers chain and so on and so on. Otherwise, when I speak about this, it's not like there is a separate testers and some separate managers and separate developers. No, we are all together as one team. Locations, mostly Europe, but we have a site in Redmond, and that's where the core of the Microsoft business sits. There is a huge site, lots of developers and engineers here. We have PMs in Redmond. So some PMs are in Redmond. Otherwise, folks are in Prague mostly, so our team is mostly located in Prague. There are some engineers in Tallinn as well. There are some people in London, also PMs. So dev and test, mostly in Prague and Tallinn, PMs in London and Redmond. That's just how it turned out historically. But we also try to frequently visit each other, and that's a key point here. So how the team works, you cannot imagine the productive team without seeing people's eyes, at least, I don't know, once in a while. So that needs to happen. And we try to travel. Folks who travel to Tallinn for the first time, in Skype we have some initiation magic there, some special drink for them. Folks who travel from Redmond to Tallinn for the first time find it even more amazing. So it's, you know, some stereotypes sometimes about Europe. It's cold and far. But when they leave, they always say, no, we'd like to get there more often. We'd like to get back more often. We want to see you guys more often. That's what we like. And vice versa. We go to Redmond sometimes, to Tallinn, to London. We mix, the teams mix the people and travel pretty much frequently. That's about some details. And that's the team, basically. So here we are. Offsites. That's also a key word. Without having fun, that's not, productive work is not possible. So we have fun pretty often as well. That's here in Czech Republic, somewhere in the mountains. We gather everyone, go there for 1 week, totally disconnect from the grid, no mails, no code, nothing, just have fun together, talk to each other, of course discuss the business, but it's like without distraction, and have some fun also in the evenings, go somewhere and have some activities. That's what we do. And that also helps to the first motto that I've mentioned, right? So that's the have fun part. Okay, so before we dive into details, some more history, because the team that you've seen, this slide, it wasn't founded like this. It didn't exist 10 years ago. So how we get there? November 2011, that's when the Microsoft acquired Skype formally, right? And the deal was closed, and the right same moment, almost the very same moment when it happened, Microsoft folks decided, hey, we have a new platform on the way. It's Windows 8. What about having a new product for that platform? Let's create a modern Skype application. It's a totally new platform, so let's start from scratch. And we've started from scratch. So the team was founded with 4 people exactly 2 years ago. Then, about one year later, in October 2012, when the Windows 8.0 itself became public, that's also the moment when the first public release of the modern Skype app came to the market. So in 1 year, we had the first public release. And then, again, 1 year later, just now, October 2013, Skype application, the modern Skype, is included with Windows 8.1, so it's right in the box now. Before, that was a standalone application. Now you get the Windows 8.1 on your PC. Skype is right there. You can turn your computer, and immediately you have the modern communication channel. You can call somebody, you can chat with somebody, so it's there. And between that, we had 10 updates in the Windows Store, right? So around 1 update in a month, delivering what our users were asking for. So people wanted something, and we gave it to them. And we did it pretty frequently. So with that, it's totally new platform, right? Right from scratch. No knowledge, nothing. Skype didn't exist for Windows 8 before November 2011. And the platform itself didn't exist. It wasn't developed at this point yet. And the team grew, as I just showed you the numbers. So it's like 27 people now, right? So how, in 2 years, from 4 people and totally fresh platform and no software, no integration, we get to 20-something and the modern communication software included with the operating system? Well, that's how. Basically, that explains itself. We use Scrum, and that's the Scrum, literally. If you recognize this picture, it's a rugby game. And what these people do is they do Scrum. So right now, that's Scrum. All together stand for one common shared goal. And then they push to this goal. Basically, that's what we did in the team. We use Scrum, and going forward, when we'll dive into the hardcore details, it will be more and more about this. Okay? So, as I said about Scrum, who of you feels like an expert in Scrum area? A few years of practice is pretty hardcore. Raise your hands. Few, all right. Okay. All right, so let's then explain. So this slide will not be unnecessary. It's very popular now, right? So that's why I assume that everybody knows what's that. But let's go through that. So some key items in Scrum. Backlog, right? What's the backlog? It's a list of requirements or anything that has to be done for the product, sorted by return of investment. Basically, how much it brings to the business and how much it costs to get it done. That's ROI. And the list is dynamic. There is a person who is named product owner, who is the owner of this list, and it's his business to take care of that. So the backlog is under his product owner vicinity to manage that, sort that, create stuff there, and so on and so on. It's basically like to do, right? To do, but in more organized terms. That's the basis for development. So some people, I don't know, business, market, stakeholders, they come up with ideas. They say, hey, we want this. Or customers, they ask, hey, we want this. So these stories or ideas, they came into the backlog first. And then everything starts from that backlog. And the Scrum team, of course, itself. Well, now the point here is that Scrum team is not necessarily the physical team. Scrum team is just an idea to organize, and it's self-organized. If you look at the most popular Scrum definitions or guides, all of them will say that the team is self-organized. Also, they will say it's cross-functional. What it means that the team possesses all the expertise and knowledge and technology and everything. So basically, team has the capacity to deliver. It will not depend on somebody else, or if it will depend, it will have a minimal dependency. So it includes development team, where I should say engineering, basically, because development, when people hear development, they assume like people who touch the keyboard to write the code, but it's engineering, creating some stuff. Product owner, of course, who brings these stories, breaks them down to the team, explains what we need to do. And the Scrum Master. We'll talk about Scrum Master a little bit more later. Then the sprint and the release. I didn't put the release here, but the sprint is an iteration of a few weeks typically, like 1 or 2 or 3, 4 weeks, depends on the environment. The minimal iteration, which delivers a work in increment. That's also a terminology of the Scrum, work in increment. So you have a product, then you have this iteration of a sprint, and at the end of the sprint, what you do is you deliver the added value to that product. So something has been added, it works, so it's functional, it works, and you deliver that to the product owner, to the market, whatever. And then the sprints are organized in releases. This also depends on the environment. We will talk about this in detail. So some people have one sprint, one release. Release is like more formal. So sprints are internal. Release is when you actually release something. So send to users or to the market. It can be like 2 sprints in the release, 1 sprint in the release, 4 sprints in one release. It's up to the team. And then ceremonies. There's lots of ceremonies in Scrum, but the most important are the daily stand-up, this stuff. That happens every day. Really, that happens every day in the morning, stand up, in a team, the Scrum team gathers together, and they talk about the progress towards achieving their goal, towards delivering this work in increment inside the sprint. That's where most of the communication happens, right? You have all the team together, you can raise awareness of the others. You will say, we get that far, we added this feature, now this and this works, or otherwise that there are some issues or impediments, as we call them in Scrum, impediments, like something prevents the team from functioning or stands in its way to deliver a working product, and then the team should work on removing this impediment from their way. And that's most often that's work for a Scrum Master. Then grooming, planning, demo, retrospective. So grooming is how you get from the whiteboard to some real specifications that development team or engineering team can work on. Because the backlog is created from, the big rough blocks, this list, and at the top of the list, these are items with the biggest ROI, right? This is where ROI increases. So these should be very fine-grained, clean, understandable. So that's what we call grooming. To bring to the top of it items in such a shape that you can take them into the sprint and work on them. And then down, it's more and more fuzzy, and somewhere here there's even no shape. It's like, hey, I want some cool feature to work, right? Nobody knows what this cool feature yet. It will, when it gradually produces towards the top of the backlog, it's been groomed. And grooming is a repeating ceremony. It happens often. So you groom the backlog all the time, so that at the top of it, there are fine-grained, clear items. At the bottom, it's like, that's for the future, right? It's not what we should focus on right now. So grooming in the Scrum is driven by the product owner. It's his responsibility. But also the team participates. Team should understand what's there in this backlog, and also it should be able to say how much it will take to deliver, right? That's where ROI comes from. So product owner may say, hey, if we do this feature, it will be really cool. All our users will be so happy. And then the development team should say, hey, but that's about, say, 10 story points to deliver. And the Scrum operates in the story points. It's basically apples, or I don't know, rubber ducks. In Scrum, we don't use the formal time. So nobody says, like, hey, it will take 1 day or 2 days. No, it's story points. And story points are relative to some other. It's just a measure of complexity, right? Complexity, not time itself. So this story may be 10 story points, and then the people who came up with this estimation, they need to calibrate sometimes against their own estimations to say, hey, in this story, it's like it sounds twice simpler. We will do it easier. It's all small, so it's, I don't know, 4 story points, let's say, or 5. Whatever. Okay, so they're relative and only within a team. You cannot compare this team estimation to some other team. So if there is other team sitting somewhere, I don't know, across the ocean, and they come up and say, hey, our estimation of this story is 20, it doesn't mean anything. It's just their own internal feeling of what it takes, complexity. So the grooming, what does it mean? It's very important. So why go into the details here? The grooming is the process of creating this amorphous stuff into the clean, very fine-grained, understandable items with estimations. So product owner comes up with the ideas or requirements or business value, and development team comes up with estimations. That's called grooming. So every item in the backlog should have this estimation. Otherwise, it's not groomed. Then planning. What about planning? So before starting to work on something, the team should say, okay, let's now take into the sprint these 3 items, and that will give us, I don't know, 40 story points altogether, and that's how much we can deliver in one sprint. The term is called velocity, and velocity limits, or not limits, it's just a historical number also. It's some abstract number. It's not a date, it's not a month, it's just what team has been able to deliver in the past. So if the team says, last few sprints, our average velocity was about, I don't know, 50 points. This means that when the next sprint starts, before starting the sprint, to know what to work on, the product owner just posts these items from the top of the backlog into the sprint until it reaches about 50 story points. Because overcommitting, if he brings up 100, team can say, hey, we can't do this, right? You may want to deliver us, you may want us to deliver 100 story points, but we can do it. All the past statistics shows that we only deliver 50. But if he says, let's just use the 20, that team is half unused, right? There is more capacity in the team, it can do more. Demo. So when the sprint ends, the Scrum formally defines the demo. So product owner, who represents the business or the users, customers and stakeholders, should see what the team has done. So the team demos to the product owner what it has done. So then the product owner says, I accept that, that's great, that's what I wanted, that's all these story points you've taken in the sprint, they are done, let's send this to the market. And then the retrospective. Retrospective is when the team altogether says, hey, in this sprint, something didn't go well, let's improve this. Or in this sprint, something went really well, let's do more of this. That's a retrospective. So the team inspects and adapts very often. So on the basis of every sprint, and the end of the sprint, after delivering the value and demoing it to the product owner, who then takes it to the market, the team retrospects itself and say, hey, let's improve a little bit in, I don't know, in testing or in communication. That some folks didn't speak to each other very often this sprint, and that sucks. Let's fix this. That's also very important in Scrum because, again, team is self-organized and it has capacity to deliver. And if something goes into the way of the delivering, then it should be fixed. And it's team's responsibility. It's not some other boss or somebody who comes and says, hey guys, let me send you to some offsite so you will have fun and you will be more productive. It's team's decision. Team says, hey, we are bored for 3 months, we were working heads down, let's go to offsite. Okay, any questions? Questions on this? Everything's clear. That's a key concept of Scrum. Right? Okay, no questions. And then let's talk about Scrum in our team. So the previous slide has shown the theory, how the Scrum is defined in the market, in the IT. And this slide shows how we approach Scrum in this Microsoft-Skype team. So our context is that we are very much supported. It's not that we need to prove to somebody that it works, or it's not that somebody went to us and they told us, guys, you must do this. No, it's a mutual support and respect. So our organization very much supports the Scrum methodology as the tool to deliver business value. All right, so we are supported by trainings. We had Jim Copeland in Prague several times. That's quite a famous guy. So people who found the Scrum itself, they help us and train us with it. And veterans in the industry, they also come to us and help us with organizing the Scrum. On-site coaches, so people sitting right next to us who will help us with the Scrum. So we don't need to, I don't know, just poke around or go somewhere and invent the bicycle ourselves. There's like people with serious expertise in the field who has been running Scrum for, I don't know, 10, 15 years maybe. And they sit next to the team and we can at any moment go and ask them, hey, help us with this, or can you explain or improve this stuff? Also, I don't know, conferences, latest materials, everything. In our team, we have free access to that. If somebody wants to go to some Scrum conference, it's just you raise your hand and you go. There is no need to persuade anybody. Materials, everything. Some presentations, whatever we need, we have everything to our disposition. And our goal in the team is frequently deliver high value to our users. Why frequently? Because, well, it makes sense, right? Why I should wait for another year or two when I get a new version of my application with some fixes if I can get it in a few weeks? That's fast feedback from the market. And then the users can say, hey, we want this feature first, or that feature that you gave us last time doesn't work very well. So you don't need to wait again 1 year to get this fixed. The team will hear this immediately. Next sprint, it will start working on that. Next release, the market gets the feature. And high value to our users, that's how we create our backlog. Our backlog is not only produced, I don't know, by wild imagination of our PMs. We really look into feedback from our customers, from the real world, and stories get to the backlog from the users. So it's like, I've mentioned business several times, but that's our business, right? That the business itself is to make our users happy. They want to use our application. And also our goal is to improve in everything what we do. We don't say that, hey, we arrived at some nirvana and we know everything now, although we are quite experienced. We still see that we can improve in many ways, and we are open to improvements. We feel free to, I don't know, improve the process, experiment, measure, right? We experiment quite often. Then we measure what impact it had in our capacity to deliver, in our value that we gave to the market, in the quality of our product, on team relationships, in the mood, on everything. That's what retrospective does. People just stand up and openly say, I didn't like this idea that we voted for last time. It didn't go well, so let's stop doing this. And then we adapt and iterate. So it's not like set it in stone. We adapt often, iterate often, and improve all the way going forward. That's our context of this specific team. Okay, questions? No? Cool. Now, how did we set up the Scrum and Skype? Again, it's not that somebody came to us in the first place and told us what we do. We gather as a team all together. We discussed some ideas, and then we decided. So we had an open discussion and adapted to the market, to our environment, to the size of the team, to everything that we have at hand. And then we decided how we will go forward. So from this point on, in the next slides, we will go really hardcore into the details. And this is a slide to explain where we got this hardcore stuff. That's the team's decision. It's not some supernatural stuff that arrived to us. We created it ourselves. So we decided how to drive it. Okay. Details. Now to the nasty details. So formally, Scrum says that there should be a backlog and a product owner. And we do have a backlog and a product owner. However, Scrum also defines the maximum size of the team. It says that for the team to be productive and all the communications to work, it should be around, I don't know, 5-7 people. But if we go back to the first slide, you will see that it's like we are 27. So 27 people can't have one highly functional and productive Scrum team. So while we still have one product owner and one backlog who owns this backlog, but not exclusively. The team also has the right to create some items. We have several Scrum teams. Okay? So we create these Scrum teams which combine all the expertise and functions to be able to work on the product and user stories. Yes?
Sorry, could you explain perhaps a little bit on who product owner is or what's his role?
Okay, product owner. That's the guy who manages this. It's his responsibility. So product owner, let's say he's often Scrum says he's an interface to the users, or he represents a customer. Okay, so it's the guy, or I know, a girl, who takes the ideas from all the sides on what the product should do, from the users, from the business, or from some other stakeholders, and then creates these stories in the backlog, and then grooms and grooms and grooms. And basically, he brings something new that needs to be done for the product. He says, well, I heard our users want this feature, so let's do it. let me create a story in the backlog, let us groom it together, let's estimate what it takes, let me assign the priority to that. So product owner's sole responsibility is to sort this.
Okay, so he's not really working on the implementation, he only sets the expectations what should be delivered and that's it, right?
Yes, yes. So the product owner himself doesn't write the code or something like that. And on the other hand, product owner is not the boss. Okay, so product owner is not the boss to all these guys. He doesn't tell them what and how to do. No, he's just somebody who understands the business and the market good enough to be able to work with these external representatives from the users and market and company, I don't know, business ideas and so on, to formulate these ideas in a shape and bring them to the team. He's sort of a proxy. So there needs to be one guy who manages this list because somebody has to sort it. Okay? In order for a team to work efficiently, you have to say that we work on this, and this item because this is what brings us the most ROI. These are the features which will make our users most happy, and at the same time, they are not super expensive to do. It's his sole responsibility. So the team cannot move the items here. Team estimates the items and asks questions for explanations like, hey, what did you mean when you said that our users want the application to flip-flop? What does it mean? He said, well, maybe you should show some strange UI in this situation, this situation. So team clarifies the expectations, breaks down the stories to some good granularity, and then estimates what it will take to do this. And then product owner sorts this according to the business requirements and so on and so on. It's basically, oops, this guy. This guy. So he has like ton of stuff, right, from the market. Something crashes, something doesn't work, or we need to improve the performance, or we need to create a new UI and new function, and then we need to integrate with third-party applications, and so on and so on. There is tons of requirements coming from all the sides, and product owner job is to break this down into understandable pieces and estimate them. And also the most important, actually we are kind of off topic here, but most important job of the product owner, most important skill of him is to say no. Because when you see a wall like this, you should say no sometimes. You should say, we can't do this, whatever. Even if it's important, it's complex, and we already have a list of important features. So sorry, we will put it down somewhere here, or maybe even say no and just delete it, discard it. Okay, so back to the Scrum teams. Should I repeat it briefly again? That's how we set up the layout. Because, again, 27 people cannot create single Scrum team effectively. So we have several Scrum teams. Now I will draw this again a little bit in more details. So where we started? There exists a formal organization structure, right? There is development boss Alpha, and he has, I don't know, a team of 4 people, and then Bravo, Charlie, whatever. And all these teams, these are the bosses, they have another boss on the top, blah, 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 and so on and so on. And there is a test team, maybe, right? So testers here, testers here. What happens? Delta. What normally happens is that Scrum teams are organized around these boundaries, right? Because there is already an organizational structure, it's formally defined, so let us create a Scrum team here. But this assumes that this team first has all the functions and capacity. So it's going against definition. It should have somebody to be able to test it, to be able to define the requirements. So product manager or product owner should be there, and testers should be there, and I don't know, maybe even some separation of the expertise between front end, back end, whatever you define it. So the teams that are created normally, if you go to any company in the market and you look at any team, normally what naturally happens is that the team is diverse. The teams are rarely created so that it's only, I don't know, let's say back-end guys who understand only C++, and they only do this, so they can create a natural Scrum team which will work on features only that require this knowledge. And then another Scrum team and another Scrum team. That's hard to do, just because when you hire people, they are all different. Okay? And on the other hand, it's difficult because if you are a development manager, you will not have testers reporting to you. In Microsoft, it's separated. So development organization is separate, it has a boss, and then the testers have their own boss, so they're like formally independent. So this kind of layout of the team doesn't work well. On the other side, what may happen is that, okay, we say that let us create a team and some people will work together to develop a new feature, I don't know, to send files in the Skype application. And it turns out that it's this person, this person, this person, and these two guys. Somebody has to test it, somebody has to develop, and the Scrum team will go like this. And that's basically what we do. Okay? So our Scrum teams in the Skype, they go across organization boundaries. So while this line still formally exists, the team itself is created around a feature. So product owner says, I want some feature to be delivered in the next release. And then the Scrum team is created around this feature. So it takes people across locations, across the sites. Some people from Prague, from Tallinn, and from London can work together to create this feature. They still formally report to their bosses, but again, why it cares? We are working as Scrum, and now our goal is to deliver the value, and that's what we do. We create a Scrum team around this feature, and we like to mix people together from different sites and with different experiences just to share the knowledge. And these Scrum teams are short-lived. It's not that we create one Scrum team like this, and then it exists forever, for next few releases or months or even years. No, the Scrum teams are only created per feature. They're short-lived. And then, when the feature is done, when it's delivered, then the sprint ends and this team shows this feature to the product owner, this Scrum team disbands. Because the feature is done, or the requirement that was put into the sprint, it's delivered, it's done. There is no need to maintain this team anymore. And the next sprint, when we take some other stuff from the middle of backlog, again, we look across all our people and we say, hey, who has the knowledge and expertise and ability and interest to work on this feature? And again, some people will raise their hands. So some people here, here, they will gather together and create a Scrum team. But even if we go into the more details, I was mentioning features there, right? So before creating the Scrum team, how do we estimate, right? We need to estimate these stories that product owners brings to us with the story points. And this team will be created only for the feature itself, right? But the feature is not estimated yet. So in reality, even in more detail, what we do is that this team, first we call it a focus group. It's created as soon as product owner sees the need to work on something. So this focus group gathers together and estimates and grooms this feature. It may prototype it, evaluate it, investigate what needs to be done for that, and so on and so on. And then it's not happening just one day prior to taking this feature into the sprint or the release. It happens sometime earlier, I don't know, even months before we start working on this feature. So there was some group of people who has the most knowledge or expertise or interest in that feature. They have estimated that feature. They produced an estimation already. And this group of people is normally, I don't know, let's say 3, 4, 5 people. 4 on average. So we groom the items inside these focus groups. Because if you bring all 27 people together into one room, and product owner brings up some stuff, and all people start asking questions, what does it mean? Hey, did we consider using this technology, or this API, or that API, and so on, it's totally inefficient. It's not working. When you have 30 people in the room, and all of them have their own perspective, or maybe some of them are not even interested, right? It's even worse. People who are not interested, they have to sit long hours on some meetings and talk about something they will not work on. So that's how we address this problem. We break our team into the smaller chunks. These chunks are feature groups. They estimate the stories. So we still have one backlog. Product owner receives estimations for that, and then he's able to sort. Okay, what else? Scrum Master. So Scrum formally says there should be a person who is called Scrum Master, whose responsibility is to make Scrum work and make team productive, make team deliver, right? And in our team in Microsoft, this Scrum Master is also, it's not the boss, because I've seen in some other places that Scrum Master is like, he has a, I don't know, some limb around the head that he tells people what to do. That's not good, and that's what Scrum tries to avoid. So Scrum Master in our reality is appointed inside the team. So in this team, who will work on that feature, and then there will be a Scrum team created for that, it's just one of these guys. He understands everything, he knows the details, then he will talk to other people and explain them on the Scrum of Scrum what's going on. Okay, so we don't have a separate position, or we don't have a separate person who is like a boss to the team, and as a Scrum Master he drives everything. No, Scrum Master in our case is just one of these guys. And we also rotate this function. So it's not that, again, naturally, right? When the team is created, some of these guys will be a Scrum Master. So when the daily stand-up happens, where is that? Here. Scrum Master is this guy on the left, right? He has a little bit more visibility and knowledge going ahead. So when the Scrum team is formed, there is a Scrum Master. But after the team delivers, the team is disbanded. So again, Scrum Master is gone. Next time, the team will be created around some separate feature or some other stuff. Again, there will be a gathering, Scrum team will be created, and somebody will be appointed internally. It's, again, this team's internal decision. They will say, hey, I want to try Scrum Master this time. And that's what we do. Okay. Let me go back. And naturally, because we have many Scrum teams, there have to be some sort of synchronization between them, right? So that's what Scrum guides call Scrum of Scrum. So Scrum Masters from several teams. So this guy is Scrum Master in this team. He's one. There is another team of these 3 people. And this guy is Scrum Master. This one and everybody else creates the biggest Scrum team. And this guy is Scrum Master. So then, daily, they gather in what we call SOS, Scrum of Scrum, and there is a PO on this meeting, product owner, because we still have a backlog, right? PO is still a single guy. But this will just report in a similar way that it happens on the daily stand-up. this Scrum Master from every team will report on behalf of his team. He will say, we implemented this feature already, and now we are in the testing. It all looks good, so we are fine, and product owner knows what's going on. And then somebody else will say, we have started the implementation, but it turns out that the database is not working, so we have an impediment. We have to find out how to avoid this, and so that PO knows that there is an impediment and that the delivery of this sprint is under the risk. That's important meeting. We have it, I don't know, for 30 minutes every day when Scrum Masters from individual teams gathers with PO and just go around the table and talk about the progress. Okay. I feel like we already talked about this a little bit. Grooming plan. Yes, please.
If the Scrum teams are created every time for a feature, how do you know the initial velocity of this team? Because you don't have historical data particular for this group of people.
Yeah, good question. So basically, while we create new Scrum teams every time, overall, the team is still the same. It's still the same people, all these 27, they're all the same. And we've started, basically, if you look back into the past, we started from 4. So when we started our first iterations, true, there was no estimation at all. But after several months, we came to some number, some velocity. And in the past, we had organization like this. We had Scrum teams organized like this. They were running for, I don't know, half a year. So we had some method of work, and we knew that all together, all these people, with PM and test and dev and designers and everybody, they are capable of delivering, I don't know, let's say 100, just round number, 100 story points in one release.
Yeah, it's all together.
It's all together.
But this separated groups.
There is no problem here because it's only the estimation, right? And for estimation, it's still the same people who estimated stuff in the past. So these people in this Scrum team, although it's new Scrum team, they in the past estimated stuff together with these guys. So it's relative. It's not that suddenly estimations produced by this team are way off or they are like twice bigger. So team has worked together for some time already, and when we produce estimations, they are still calibrated against others. So they're in sync. So if, let's say, that some team has estimated some feature in 5 points, this team was created just because these people are closest to the implementation of this feature. But if we take this feature and this PBI and everything from the backlog to other guys and give them time, again, to learn it, investigate, ask questions, sync with product owner, try it out, in the end of the day, estimation that they will produce will be also about 5 points. Okay? So then in the end, estimations that are assigned here are still made by the same people. And again, important point that next iteration, we mix them. We recreate the teams. So estimations keep being produced with this knowledge of the people from the past. They will not say that, this feature looked like something similar that we did last iteration. By the scope of it, we need just 1 new screen and 10 new functions from the system and so on and so on. It was 8 points. So when they go into the next iteration, something similar appears on the backlog and they will say, it's also about 8 points, right? It feels about the same. And then we still have a fixed number, it's 100. Velocity. So this number like floats a little bit, but overall it remains more or less stable. So the team is capable of delivering 100 points in one release. So when an iteration starts, the product owner, that's the planning here, right? So backlog items, because they were estimated separately in this team, in this team, in this team, and each team haven't seen the entire backlog yet, estimated or top of it. They were working only on their own stuff like this. So when we came to planning before the iteration, so we know that the sprint will start on Monday. On Friday, now this is the one of the meetings, there are 3 of them. So planning, demo, and retrospective are where we gather all 30 people. But this time, the meeting effectiveness is quite high because everything is estimated. So we just let people know what's there. Velocity is known. It's literally few clicks. So product owner just gets the items, pulls them down to the sprint, and that's it. There is no need to wait for, 10 long discussions about each separate feature. These discussions already happened. It's just presented to the entire team. So top of the backlog is taken into the sprint, aligned with velocity, so we know that there is 10, 20, oh, actually we never have 20. Our rule is that we don't use items bigger than 8 story points into the sprint, because 8 is on the edge of being tangible. It's everything else more than that, let's break it down. So say 2, 3, and so on and so on. So we just calculate them together, that's 15 points. Hey, that looks good. Pull these 15 story points and we can deliver them. Cool. All right. Sprint dynamics. I've already mentioned this. Scrum doesn't dictate this, so every team is capable of deciding itself. So in our team, we have 2 weeks in each sprint and 2 sprints in each release. So formally, each 4 weeks, we produce something that goes to the market. So one sprint is 2 weeks. We deliver something, show it to PO. He says, hey, guys, it looks great. Next sprint starts. We deliver something. That's a release. Now PO not only looks at it himself, but it takes it all together and sends it to the market, to the Windows Store. And our application goes to our users. Why these numbers? We've experimented with that as well. It's not something we came up with on the first attempt. We had one release made of 1 sprint of the 4 weeks. We had one release made of 4 sprints, 1 week each. But then at the end of the day, when team grew and we scaled out, we set on these numbers. 2 weeks in sprint, 2 sprints in release. Review, I also mentioned this already, right? So we demo the increment to entire team. That's one of the gathering. When the sprint ends, we have all 30 people together, and each team shows what they did. They showed that now you can send files, or now you can resize the application, so on, and PO accepts that, and it goes to the market. And then also retrospective. Retrospective is combined so that all the people, entire round table, everybody has a chance to say what worked and what not. Because we are still the same team, we still will be mixing people all together, so we need to know what was going well and what didn't work. Reality check. So, where is the customer? I hear you say, right? Where is the real guy? And we sync to the hard real world very often as well. So PMs provide a formal interface like usability studies and investigation, surveys, statistics, everything. So they know what's going on. They know how our users like something or dislike formally. They know it. They have numbers to prove it because the store and the channel that we distribute our application supports it. But also everyone has direct informal access to users. So each sprint that we produce a working increment is sent to dog food. It's a well-known word inside Microsoft world. It's mandatory for all products. Mandatory. So everything we produce on each iteration, and iteration is 2 weeks. So after the sprint, we have something working. We send it to entire company. Before going to the market, we send it to entire company, and people just update, and they let us know directly. That's our colleagues in Microsoft company. They came to us and say, hey, this stuff didn't work, or wow, I like it. Way to go. So we have a real communication to people who use our product. But also there is a beta users. So guys from the outer world who just come closer to us a little bit, and we send them our product earlier than somebody else. Or support channel, or even more. That here in Skype Prague organization, what we do is we really meet the ordinary people. We just ask guys to come to us and tell us what works and what not. We meet real people. We look into their eyes and they say us, hey, this feature sucks. I want you to fix it. And we're like, man, yeah. We know. Or, of course, it's not all negative. You will be surprised how often the developers are like, it doesn't look good, people will be unhappy, the UI is not the most beautiful that we can create. But when real people talk about it, they often have the totally opposite approach. They say, hey, I love it, I really love it, it works, it's so amazing, guys, how you did it, I love it, way to go. So more often than not, we hear positive feedback from our real users. We talk to the guys from the street, literally, and they tell us what they think about the product. Now, although I'm running out of time, just briefly, hardcore engineering details. Behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes. Okay, technical improvements and issues. So some people, even the previous presenter has mentioned it. It's like a plug, right? So how do you fight the technical depth and issues? They grow and grow and grow. And then before you release a product, you suddenly discover you have 1,000 bugs. That's not our case. In our team, we have a hard limit on bug number set by team. It's a team agreement. We arrived at the number and we said, any point in time when there is more bugs than this, we just stop doing anything. We stop doing anything and bring it down back to the normal. And this has effect on velocity, okay, right? So this is included there. So there is no need to separately estimate the bugs when they appear because you cannot estimate them. They just come up unpredictably. Technical improvements. We also have team internal backlog for stuff that's not directly contributing to the product itself. So it's not creating a user value itself, but it's, let's say, I don't know, improvements to the process or to the tools that developer use or something that we want to rewrite, refactor, reorganize, whatever. We want to do this internally, and in the end of the day, that still contributes to velocity, because if you have a clean, stable code base and no technical depth, you deliver faster and more high-quality product. Our PO understands that, and because of that, we have a budget allocation in every sprint. So it's not like we need to fight or persuade somebody that we should change our tools or refactor some code. We have a budget. In every sprint, there is a budget. We have, I don't know, half of it sometimes, it depends, third of it, fifth of it, we have for our internal stuff. Code. Mandatory code reviews and design reviews. We don't do anything without that. So every commit undergoes mandatory code review before we commit it to the source code. Technical sessions to present and share the knowledge. We talk in the team often, distribute the knowledge. We learn something new. We just send invitation to the team and say, hey, I've learned about this new method or technology. I've seen this new amazing framework, or Windows has added this new feature. Let's talk about this. On the test level, we unit test when the developers write the code. We have automation created by the testers. Our PO and PM test it by a daily use of the product. So it's not that like see it once an iteration, once at the end of the sprint. They install it every day. We have builds running after every commit. They're all green, unit tested automatically, automation runs automatically, of course. PO downloads the product, uses it, and says, hey, I see the progress on the feature. And at the organization level, I've mentioned the dog food already. Tools, Jira for Scrum and related. We use Jira for tracking the backlog, tickets, bugs, everything. Our sources are migrating to TFS. Everything else is team internal. Nobody mandates us what to use. It's our own decision. The end, folks. Took some time, but we are at the end. So who wants to join, please go there. We have amazing opportunities. The site grows. Prague site of the Skype hires lots of smart folks. And again, how the team works there. So you already know what's going on. We have fun, and we deliver value to business. That's it. Ask questions. Okay?
May I ask you?
Yes.
So before Skype was an individual company, before Microsoft bought it, how do you develop for other platforms? Are you also involved in that, or you're just Windows 8?
No. Basically, we developed in a very similar way. So everything I described here is applicable, except that currently Skype product being part of the Microsoft, we have, let's say, short circuit to some folks. So teams in Windows organization or in Visual Studio or in TFS, they work with us directly. Before that, Skype was a third-party vendor. There existed a platform. Skype application used this platform, and this platform can be whatever, Microsoft, Google, or iOS, or Apple. Now, when talking specifically about our product, Skype application for Windows 8, it's not that we go to them. It's not only that we go to them and ask them for help, but it's vice versa. So now, not only Skype is being developed for this platform, but this platform is also developed for Skype. That's one of the amazing things that happened recently. So people from Windows came to us and asked what we want them to do. And we tell them, hey, we want you to fix this toast notification, or we want you to add new buttons to the toast so that when the user calls someone and the toast arrives in the system, I can start the call right from it. I don't need to go inside the application. I can click right on the toast on the screen when I'm in some other application, and the call will start immediately. And that's what we did. In Windows 8.1, that's what we did. Now it's there. We asked them for this feature. They did it for us, and cool. Now our users are happier because they can start the call more early. Does it answer your question? Not much?
How do you contemplate development for iOS and Android and the desktop Skype? So is it also within your team? Or?
No. The team that I spoke about here is only creating. Let me go back to it. Yep. That's stuff. That's what we do, and I'm a dev lead in that team. However, the team that develops the desktop Skype for Windows and desktop Skype for iOS, they also exist separately. They do the same as we do. They work similarly. They have sprints, scrum, stand-ups, teams, velocity, everything. Everything, literally. They go on sites to the same locations. So it's like almost, I don't know, 99% the same. That's why the presentation is called how the Microsoft development team works. It's not specifically limited to this team. Doesn't mean that other teams do the stuff totally like in their own way. It's very similar. Okay, thank you guys.